What's going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer from blueandgold.com. With me, Tim Hyde and Ashton Pollard. And we had a comment recently on a podcast. I think it was a rating. Someone gave me like 3 stars because they did not care for us talking about what we were drinking. So with that in mind, I am drinking a Blue Moon and sipping out of my Bolton Landing Brewing Company glass. Brendan sent me this glass. So Brendan, if you're listening or watching this, I need more beer. So send me some more beer. Tim, what are you sipping on, man?
Ditto. Bolton Landing, and I got their dark porter here. Enjoying this one tonight.
Ashton.
Cheers.
Ashton, yep, cheers.
Yeah.
Welcome to the YouTube channel and your first
Thank
podcast
you.
appearance. What are you sipping on?
I'm just drinking red wine. I'm a wine person. I don't love beer. It's okay.
She's classy. I'll be honest with you guys. I can't have that many beers anymore. My body, it's struggling with beers these days. Okay, before we dive in, we have a lot to talk about. Dante Moore, more 2023 recruiting content, team-related content, so a ton to discuss. But Ashton, we wanted to introduce you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, how you came to Blue and Gold. I know you're very prideful about the state you're from, so give us the quick rundown of Ashton Pollard.
Okay, so yes, I'm originally from Virginia, from Richmond, and I went to school at Penn in Philadelphia, and then I ended up working in DC for 2 years. Decided that was not for me long term, but I had a communications background, so I kind of thought about what in the communications realm I could do with another topic that I liked, and that was sports. And so I went to journalism school at Northwestern, still live in Chicago for about 2 more weeks before I moved to South Bend. But how I got directly to Blue and Gold after grad school, I was working at On3 on the national news desk. So not Notre Dame specific, obviously, but at the same company, and then got pulled over to BGI in late January. So yeah, that's a very brief synopsis of how I got here.
Yeah, Ashton's an absolute workhorse for us. She writes more than I do, and I thought I wrote a lot of content for our site, and then here Ashton comes along, and she's beating me out in the amount of stories posted. So, all right, 2023 quarterback recruiting. We're going to talk about it. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to our YouTube channel if you're not yet. blueandgold.com, $1 for if you watch these videos and listen to my podcast. You hear me talk about it every week. $1 for the first year of access at blueandgold.com. Talk Notre Dame football, argue Notre Dame athletics, argue about anything. It's a great time. And of course, good Notre Dame recruiting scoop as well. If you're listening via podcast, leave a good review. We would appreciate that. If you don't like us talking about beer, I apologize. Sort of. And yeah, we are reviving a weekly podcast here, Pod Like a Champion. That's what we're naming this via podcast channel. So snazzy little name there. But yeah, 2023 quarterback recruiting. Tim, I'm going to throw this to you first. When you're scrolling Twitter or you're on the board this past Friday and you see that Mike Singer has put in a prediction for Dante Moore to land at Notre Dame, Tim Hyde, what was your reaction?
Is it signing day? That was my first reaction is it December yet? Great. It's Valentine's Day or whatever it was when you put it out. So long way to go as we've learned in Notre Dame recruiting. So, obviously exciting as could be if that's the way it goes. And obviously your articles and your video you did yesterday breaking him down was great. I mean, he is, I've said it a handful of times, go all in and on him, make him the guy and go get him. That's the way I look at him more so for Coach Freeman. His first class, his tenure at Notre Dame is going to be around the quarterback here at Notre Dame. So, go get one of the premier ones. Not only that, it's not often Notre Dame has a 5-star just a couple hours away, down the road, sitting basically in their backyard. Go get them. That play, by the way, that one where he rolls out, throws up. Oh my God, it's unbelievable. So we could watch this all night long. He is a tremendous football player.
Tim, I don't know if you remember in the 2022 recruiting class, Notre Dame had those big 3 running back targets on the board. Nicholas Singleton, Dallin Hayden, Gavin Sawchuk, and it was like, man, Notre Dame's looking good for all 3, but can they land at least one? Kind of feel like that's quarterback recruiting right now. You got Dante Moore and Christopher Vizina at the top of the board, and it's like, man, can the Irish just get one of these 2 guys? Obviously, me putting in that prediction, I feel good about where Notre Dame's at. Not the highest confidence level at 55%. There's a commitment prediction for Vizina, who's down in Alabama, for him to land at Clemson with 40%. And I don't see people, getting up in arms about that. But hey, my prediction kind of rocked the boat a little bit for some of those outside of Notre Dame, but it just is what it is. But yeah, either way, I don't think Notre Dame can go wrong if they get one of these 2 guys. Ashton, I mean, just how big would this be on in your point of view if Notre Dame's to win that recruitment?
Yeah, I think it would be huge. I mean, we're talking about how Marcus Freeman's going to put an emphasis on recruiting, and that would be quite the win there if he can close that out. So I think I'm certainly not a tape guru by any means, but I think Moore and Vizina, I know we're going to talk about it a little more. That pun was not intended. I know we're going to talk about that more, but yeah, I mean, I think if he can land one of the 2, they're not necessarily interchangeable and they have a little bit different skill sets, obviously, but I think if he can't land either one, you're going to get a lot of uproar, even if he can land somebody right behind them. I know there's a couple of other guys on the board, but yeah, I think it's kind of time for Freeman to put his money where his mouth is when it comes to, he obviously recruited the defensive side of the ball really well, but if he's really going to put this big emphasis on recruiting, and that's what we should expect from him for the next several years, then this would be a great way to kick it off.
We got a comment here. Let me pop it on the screen from Jake Piper saying, Tim looking sharp as usual. Right before we went live here, Tim's wearing his shirt and tie looking snazzy as usual. And, I didn't get the memo that we were going shirt and tie.
It's all good. It's all good. So, thank you for the comment.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Tim, yes, Tim's always looking handsome and dapper. But yeah, Ashton, you made a good point about different skill sets. Vizina, a little bit more of a mobile guy, a little bit taller than Moore, but I think Vizina also has a little bit more upside potentially. I don't know how you feel about that, Tim. Probably not great, but or disagree with that. Dante Moore, I think, is a safer choice. But I mean, you're really, it's splitting hairs here. I mean, they're both fantastic quarterbacks. One thing I did want to ask you, Tim, is this scenario of, if Christopher Vizina calls tomorrow and says, hey, I want to commit, what do you do? Because, Dante Moore, they offered him last March. Vizina didn't get his offer until this past October. Timing of offers always isn't everything, but I mean, I think that kind of does give you a little bit of an indication here that Notre Dame has had Dante Moore at the top of their board for quite some time. So what would you do, Tim, as a football coach?
Wait on Dante Moore. I mean, this is my talking points. My talking
you would
points.
Say no to Vizina.
Sure. Why not? I mean, I'm not saying throw him away, but my point is, if he comes here, if he says, "Oh, I want to commit," and you got Dante Moore, I'm sorry. I think there is a difference between both of these kids, and I think it is in watching the film. I think Dante Moore is. I mean, he's a 5-star. Notre Dame doesn't get these guys like this. So why are you rushing to take a quarterback if Dante Moore, who's 2 hours away in Detroit, is the guy that you want on your program? If he's the number one guy, then why not wait for him? I mean, Notre Dame's not a stacked quarterback room now. So are these guys in the quarterback room, are they the dudes that lead you to, down the road? If they don't get, let's say Vizina says, you know what, you're not going to take my commitment, go to Clemson. Dante Moore, he commits somewhere else down the road. You still got Buckner. And then last I checked, the top 3 quarterbacks in the class of 2024 all have offers. So even if Dante Moore shows up, Buckner's still a junior. So it's not like he's graduating and grad transferring or anything like that. You still got your guy Angeli, more than, Drew Pine, who knows what's going to happen. But my philosophy is Marcus Freeman's first signing class. Marcus Freeman, if you're the ace recruiter, why is he even at South Bend? Why is he the head football coach? Dr. Jack said he's a recruiter. He's going to build Notre Dame. He's going to do the Dabo Sweeney mold. What does Dabo do about every 6 months? Get a 5-star quarterback into his program. So Marcus Freeman.
And who's Dabo after?
Well, he is after Vizina. Exactly. Why? Because he probably couldn't get Dante Moore. So he probably looked at it, the scenarios, and he's a Southern guy, right? He's from Alabama, Dabo. So let me go pull someone out of Nick Saban's backyard. Maybe that's the thinking. He's not going across west, which he did with DJ. He's not going after Nico there in Downey, California. So he was very specific in the two that he offered. Vizina's a stud, don't get me wrong. But what is the hurry, Marcus Freeman? Seriously, why do you have to rush?
I don't think anyone's rushing. No.
True, but the comment, and this has been the buzz on the message board, is that if Vizina calls or March 4th or 3rd, that early March period when he we know he's not going to do that. He's already said he's going to take multiple visits here in March. But if he does want to commit, that's a hard call to just say, hey, all right, Dante, thanks for showing up. We'll see you later.
So you see on the screen here for a YouTube audience, his ranking, number 72 player in the country per the On3 consensus, number 7 quarterback. The recruiting prediction machine. Some people love it. Some people don't care for it. I love it. I think it's a unique thing that's only going to get better. On3 is just on version 1 of the recruiting prediction machine. So it's heavily factoring in visits and insider predictions. That Clemson percentage was at 70 the last time I checked it. And just as we're recording now, it says 56. So I don't know what changed there to bump up Notre Dame. I've just been told that the algorithm's always kind of changing and there's new information added to it all the time. Yeah, Notre Dame and Georgia, 2nd and 3rd there. But I personally feel like Clemson leads. But I don't think it's that big of a disparity, 56 to 16%. But I do think that the Tigers lead right now. Ashton, anything you want to add on, taking or not taking Vizina? Because if you pass on Vizina and Moore goes elsewhere and you can't get Vizina, that's not good.
I mean, Tim brought up a good point that you still have Buckner. So it's not like in the 2023 season, you're not going to have any quarterback. Obviously, that's banking on Buckner being kind of what he was advertised as, which we still don't really know because he didn't play much last year. And also he hasn't started a football game since 2019 because he's from California. So I hear Tim's point on that if you don't end up with either of them, it's not the end of the world, I think, when it comes to the depth chart. But I do think for morale and like recruiting purposes and giving that speech of like, I'm Marcus Freeman and I'm going to go out recruit everybody on my staff. Also, I'm going to recruit with the best of them. I think it's a bigger deal for kind of the image of the program than it is for the actual depth chart, if that makes sense. I don't know if I would tell Vizina no. I'm inclined to say that I wouldn't, because again, I guess you kind of flip Tim's point and say, if you get Vizina, it doesn't work very well, then you still have Buckner and you have the 2024 class. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts.
Real quick off of that, Mike, I mean, on top of the 2024 class, if you get Dante Moore, you don't have to stress about the 2024 year, basically. It's just going to be a filler year. Notre Dame's been known to have some good fillers lately in the signing classes at quarterback. So it's really not a high-end need if you get Dante, because Dante will be here, obviously, next spring, battling and whatnot. But my whole thing in this thing is, you just got to go all. I'm sorry. I've said it before. You got to go all in. Why not? The guy's one of the premier football players in the entire country. So you got to go get him. You got to go get him. He's in Detroit. Go get him.
Yeah. Michael here in the YouTube comments says all chips to the center of the table for Dante Moore. I think you go in. I still think you have to go for both. I just think that there's not much of a discrepancy between the two in terms of talent So you just kind of weigh risk rewards. And I still am in the thought of you take Vizina. I think either scenario is fantastic for Notre Dame, right, Ashton? I mean, like, these are good problems to have. It would be nice if Notre Dame did get one of these quarterbacks.
Yeah, no, definitely. And we're a little spoiled. We're sitting here arguing over the number 4 and number 7 quarterback in the country. And then kind of the idea that I don't want to say that you would push the number 7 quarterback aside because he's also very good. But you know what I mean? It's like we're arguing about 2 top 10 quarterbacks, and I think that's a decent problem to have. And to your point, there are a lot of people that would like to have that issue.
I'm pulling up Tyler Buckner and what he was ranked. Let me pull this up on the screen right now. According to that On3 consensus,
he was the 12th or 13th there.
Number 13 quarterback. Yeah. ESPN had him ranked as the number 41 overall player. You know, ESPN, their rankings are, you know, a little. I mean, I'm just gonna say it. They're skewed towards players to play in the All-American Under Armour All-America game. And Tyler was an Under Armour All-American. Of course, that game got canceled due to COVID. And then also, you know, I don't think they just they don't update it.
They love the SEC, Mike. Just
What's
say
that?
it. They love SEC signees. So that's a lot of
ESPN
their guys
ranked Buckner very high. I just don't think they updated it very much. I mean, I don't know. Tyler's Elite 11 performance summer of 2020 was not good. And all these places had him as a borderline 5-star, and his Elite 11 was not great. But there you go. I mean, On3 had him ranked the lowest at 199, but still top 100 quarterback for the Irish. We will see Tyler Buckner. But yes, Ashton brings up a good point. It's like, what's my boy Steve Angeli in all of this? Let me bring up Steve. Steve is a fan favorite of yours truly, so...
Well, he was in the, I think, 32, 33 ranked. And I
believe it was 34, yeah. And it's around 600-ish nationally. It fluctuated a little bit as they added rankings in and out.
604.
But yeah,
604. Yeah. I mean, Rivals dropped them from a high 3-star to a mid 3-star. I mean, I don't know. I mean, did you guys watch the highlights I took of Steve at Under Armour? Look great.
Sure. Yes.
I don't know, but not to turn this into a podcast where we rant about Steve or I rant about Steve Angeli. But anything else, Tim or Ashton, on 2023 quarterback recruiting before we move on? Go ahead, Tim.
Sure. I mean, just going off what Ashton was saying. Obviously, you got two in the top 10. I think there is a big difference between Dante and Vizina. I do. I mean, the arm strength is just freakish on Dante Moore. The release is, he holds the ball up higher. It's much faster, much quicker. Mike, I watched your video you did yesterday where you had video from him from before, which was awesome, from last year, a lot of the stuff in there. So that was really good to watch. But Notre Dame has not, had a lot of national big time quarterbacks, and for them to get back up there with the big boys, that's what they need to do. And lastly, on top of this is Tommy Rees. Just real quick, Tommy Rees has been, in the NFL eyes and all these D1 possibilities. Everyone's predicting him to be a head football coach. Well, has he really landed any massive major quarterback at Notre Dame? The answer is just Tyler Buckner's the best one he is signed since he's been the quarterback coach there. So, Tommy Rees, go get the best in the country, and Dante Moore.
Let's go to YouTube. Yep, let's go to YouTube comments real quick. And if you're watching live with us, make sure you hit the thumbs up. We will be doing this a live show every Wednesday is our plan right now. I travel a good bit. Tim's a busy guy with a newborn. But we're gonna try to do these every Wednesday evening. But yeah, let's go to YouTube comments real quick. Joseph says, I think you talk to Dante if Vizina wants to commit and see where things stand. I would say it's a little bit more aggressive than see where things stand. It's kind of like, hey, this is your chance to take this spot. Jay Golden says Notre Dame played 3 quarterbacks last year. We need one of these guys. No argument there. And then we'll go to this quick question / comment here from Q Kibbs 97. Coach Tim, have you noticed the balance and athletic position Dante has in the pocket? I like how solid and balanced his base is.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's the video you and I did. His pocket prints is, presence. I mean, he looks like a pro football player. He really does. The way he throws and goes from there. But real quick, let me bounce off the question you just put up 30 seconds ago is why did they play three quarterbacks? Because the quarterback room was desperate for somebody, and the University of Notre Dame had to get a graduate transfer and Jack Cohn to even have a quarterback that played this past year, which I think goes back to quarterback recruiting and the need for a high-end football player such as Dante.
Okay, we will go next to biggest or most important non-quarterback target for Notre Dame in this 2023 class. We're going to go to Tim first and then Ashton. And I don't have a pick yet as we are live 20 minutes into this. So I will kind of just go based off what you guys say. There's so many different ways you could go. So you can't pick a quarterback. Tim, who is your choice for most important non-quarterback target for the Irish in this class?
Well, I went offensive line because
Shocker.
of my favorite football. Yeah, exactly. Shocker. Because of my favorite football coach, Harry Heastan, which I'm giving Coach Harry a little kudos here. Everyone says he doesn't like to recruit. He's too old. He doesn't like airports. Did he really develop? There's all these things that people are saying now that he's coming back. So you know what, Harry, go prove everyone wrong. You've developed, signed, produced, unbelievable offensive tackles. So why don't go out and get the number 2 offensive tackle in the country right down the street from where I'm at here in Boston, Massachusetts, and go get Samson Okalana. How do you say it, Mike?
Ogunlola.
There you go. I would get that guy. This guy is a freak. His film is beyond ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? It really is. He's not the greatest competition and whatnot because he's a man amongst boys out there, but he would, oh my gosh. Cause that's another thing. He's coming in 2023. Your buddy Joe Alt and mine, Blake Fisher, are going to be juniors. So it's not like he could come in and those guys are going to be, freshmen, sophomores. They're going to be in their third year. So he could come in right away and definitely get on that 2 deep, I feel. So he's mine just because I'm a fan favorite of his film. I think he's absolutely outstanding football player.
Ashton?
Yeah. I'll go ahead. So I'll go Carnell Tate. I think, and this has been well documented, Notre Dame has a wide receiver problem. I think that he looks the best on film, and also there's the idea that if Dante Moore comes, he comes, kind of a package deal. So I think if you can get more, you also try to go get Tate. I mean, you have Merriweather in the 2022 class, who I know a lot of people are mad at on 3 because they have him ranked lower. He could potentially be great. I think both Styles and Coley are going to be great, but I think that you need him to kind of rally the troops, maybe get a couple of those other receivers right below him to come play. And then I think also he's a really good spokesperson for the Midwest because he's actually from Chicago. He goes to IMG, but he's originally from Chicago. And so I think he would do a pretty good job of all the Southern California, Florida, Texas guys that maybe are a little afraid of the weather. He can talk them off of that ledge a little bit. But yeah, that's my pick. I think a lot of them they're good. I know Braylon James, Great House. They're all kind of up there, but he seems to stick out.
All right, actually, we're gonna go now. We're gonna go to Tim. Let me pull up Tim here. Thoughts on Carnell Tate? What do you think about him as a player? I had the On3 prediction machine pulled up there. Ohio State's a heavy favorite for him, 97% chance to land him. There's a bunch of insider predictions for him to land with the Buckeyes. I was just talking to a source today. Notre Dame is still very much in this battle for this 5-star receiver. I don't know if I would say they're like feeling like optimistic that they're about to land them or anything, but like, they're still very much in the thick of the recruitment. Tim, have you been able to watch Tate on film a good bit? What do you think about him?
He's a dude. I mean, just playing he's a dude. He's, Ashton made a great point, by the way, being from Chicago. He's a Midwestern guy, even though he's down there in beautiful Florida, but he's outstanding. I mean, Notre Dame is not, the highest ranked Notre Dame wide receiver in the last decade is Mr. Johnson, who transferred after a year. So, they haven't loaded up on guys. And is he a type of guy? Because he is he's unbelievable, some of his interviews. So is he a guy who's going to get on the horn saying, hey, I'm going to ND, Dante Moore's going, let's go play for Marcus Freeman? Does that, does those tentacles start to take effect out there in the recruiting game? But he's a dynamic football player, but so are a lot of these guys. And Mike, Mike, you've said this 100 times, but which, by the way, I was watching a video with you and the great Lou last night, just watching a little video, which I was thinking about receivers. I knew we would talk about them. And sure enough, a year ago, you guys were talking about receivers and the depth chart looked exactly the same as it is going into this year. And it's those white whales. It's getting those guys, getting all those types of players. So we're right back basically where we are. And Ashton mentioned a few guys for 2023. That's it. She mentioned 4 names. So that's it for 2023. They need to go out and get some guys.
Rest in peace, Loose Emoji, for sure.
Yeah.
Make sure you guys watching live with us, drop a super chat, and any questions you have, we will answer right away. I have come up with my choice, by the way. I just texted. I was looking down. I just texted Carnell Tate as well. I want to talk to him. You mentioned interviews with Carnell Tate, and he was like, you know what? I texted him earlier today. I'm going to follow up with him, see if I can get him on the phone. Carnell Tate and Dante Moore content, it's gold. It's website gold. All right, this is sort of a cop-out. Just kind of, because he's already committed to Notre Dame. But Keon Keeley, to me, if he counts, I don't know if you guys were thinking non-committed players count, but it was just non-quarterback recruits the most important for Notre Dame in this 2023 class. I'm going Keon Keeley, number 10 player in the nation, number 1 edge prospect. I was just at Berkeley Prep last Tuesday, flew into Florida really to see him, and I left there after my interview with him and talking to his coach. Didn't no epiphanies or super anything crazy to take away. It's still very much a Notre Dame versus the field battle in that those other schools, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, are not slowing down for him. He raved about Notre Dame. I tweeted out this cool graphic and posted it on our Instagram page of Keon Keeley and what he said about Al Washington. Chad Bowden, Marcus Freeman doing a really good job for this 5-star commit for the Irish. Expect Al Golden to, when he gets more involved in recruiting, he'll be an impact for Keon Keeley as well. But he is just so key. Talk about trucks or trailers and, all this good stuff that Tim and I always talk about. To me, here are the 3 tenets of football for me right now. You got to have a really good quarterback, you got to protect your really good quarterback, and you got to go get the other team's quarterback. And Keon Keeley is, probably the best in the country of getting after the quarterback. Number 1 edge in the country, according to the On3 consensus and On3's own rankings. Ashton, are you mad at me for going for a commit? What do you think?
Yes, I am, because you specifically told us not to do that, Mike.
Did I really?
Yes, you did. You said no one committed, counted.
Crap.
All good.
Come on now.
Tim, can you
that's a
confirm?
good one.
Did I actually say that?
Well, I asked the question.
Oh, you asked the question. Okay, my bad, guys.
You
my bad.
responded yes. That was the text. So it's very
Yikes.
clear.
All right.
Being said, that's the prediction. I think I'll add on the Trey Reader effect. That I think definitely does help. So Trey Reader is a walk-on committed that is best friends with Keon Keeley, and Trey Reader's brother is also committed to the Notre Dame baseball team, and apparently the 3 of them are like brothers. So, and I think that it's genuinely like brothers. It's not just oh yeah, he's on my team, he's a good guy. Trey basically said in an interview that Keon's over at his house every single weekend and he's hanging out with his younger brothers, and he wants to be there and hanging out with them. It's not just they're friends on the team. So I genuinely do think that will have an impact. And I think if Keeley tries to decommit, he's going to hear it from the Reader brothers.
Absolutely. Tim, any reaction to our 3 picks? Ogunlola, Keeley, and Carnell Tate.
A lot of good football players. You got the number 1 thing there is length in each and every one of these guys. You got some long dudes right there. But I'm going to go off of what you just said real quick. It made me think of Loose Emoji. I've read a few articles in his day, and if you go back, I remember Lou always used to talk about the trifecta, the history of Notre Dame football. when they have been big time, when they won the national championship, finished in the top 2 or 3, they've had an All-American offensive tackle, a D end, and a quarterback. And those are the tenets of Notre Dame, the history of Notre Dame. You could go over all the great teams, and those are going to line up right there. So go get those guys, Coach Freeman.
Yeah, I think that's just tenets of football. I mean, that's
Sure.
especially modern day, super important. So, all right, we will move on to another topic here. We actually wrote an article here at blueandgold.com Wednesday morning. We run a series called Cover 3. We take 3 of our staff members and we answer a certain question. So this week's question was, which new Notre Dame coach has the most to prove? So make sure to check that out. $1 for a year of access at blueandgold.com. Here's our actually, I need to pull this up. Here's a look at our front page. I mean, you got, actually, let me remove myself here. You guys see this $1 for a year. You click on this. I'm sorry, podcast audience, you're just gonna have to trust me. I mean, it's fairly simple. You subscribe, $1 for the first year. It really is the deal of the year. So again, that topic was, which new coach has the most to prove? And here's a look at that article again for podcast audience. Our Tyler Horka went with Al Washington, the former Ohio State linebackers coach. Ashton, why don't you tell us who you went with and why?
Yeah, so I went with McCullough, the new running backs coach, and I did it for 2 reasons. So one, he is inheriting a running back room that had a lot of struggles in the first half of the previous decade, and Lance Taylor took it over, did a very, very good job the last 3 years that he was there. So from that perspective, I think that McCullough definitely there's a high bar for the performance of the running backs, just because that's kind of what we've grown accustomed to from what Lance Taylor did. And then second, for more individual reasons for him, he has said repeatedly that he wants to ultimately be a head coach. That's part of the reason that he didn't take the New York Giants job, which would have made him one of the highest paid NFL running backs coaches. So he's at Notre Dame because that's his kind of his ultimate goal. And if that's your ultimate goal and you want to get the attention of the higher powers at these big time programs, not necessarily that he would go straight to a big time program, but if you want their attention, maybe you want to get an OC job at Notre Dame or elsewhere, I don't know. This is a very good platform to start with, and he has a lot of talent. So it's kind of, I mean, he has Tyree, he has Diggs, he has Estime, he has Price coming in, who I know he's not as highly touted, but I think certainly is talented. And it's not like Kyron Williams was that highly touted, and look what he did. So yeah, I think that McCullough, both for the individual to reach his individual goals, as well as kind of, this is a little hard to screw up, I guess, in a way, because there is so much talent and there's such a strong foundation there.
I'm the president of the Joe Alt fan club. That's very well known.
Yes.
I take that with pride. I think we can crown Ashton Pollard the president of the DeLon McCullough fan club. You're very high on McCullough. Can you give us
I am.
these? If you are listening or watching this and you don't know McCullough's backstory of his family, you have to, like, I don't want to recommend you like stop listening or watching this, and so maybe after you're done with us, go find that E60 or listen to the podcast version of it or whatever it is. It's incredible. Can you give us like the quick rundown of that, Ashton? Do you remember the story that well that you can give us a quick rundown?
Yes. I've read it multiple times now. Sarah Spain did it for ESPN, and I highly recommend you go find it. But basically, the very brief version was, he was born in Pittsburgh. He was put up for adoption, and he was adopted, I think it was around 6 weeks. He was an infant. Grew up in Youngstown, Ohio, so kind of just across the border from Pittsburgh and Ohio. And for his entire childhood, he did not know who his biological parents were. So he grew up there, was recruited to play at Miami of Ohio, play running back. He was recruited by a guy named Sherman Smith, and really liked Smith. He committed to Miami, ended up there, but Smith actually left before McCullough got to Miami to go be the running backs coach at Illinois. But they stayed in touch throughout McCullough's time at Miami, and then throughout when he first started coaching. And basically in 2017, McCullough went to go find his biological parents, found his biological mother, and his biological mother informed him that Sherman Smith was his biological father. So you really can't make that up. But yeah, so this guy that was his mentor recruited him, continued to be essentially a father figure, like basically was his father for all intents and purposes. And he finds out that that is his biological father. So again, I did not do that story justice. Sarah Spain certainly did. If you look it up, if you just Google like Sarah Spain, Della McCullough
Yeah.
adoption story, you'll find it. But yeah.
Yeah, you did it. You did a
There you
good
go.
job for recapping it in about 30 seconds.
Thank you.
So, yes,
It's hard.
it's crazy. I remember
It's nuts.
hearing that story for the first time. It was January 2020, and then Notre Dame offered Dasan McCullough, Delan's son, who ended up signing with Ohio State. And I had to mention at the end of the interview, like I was like, dude, your story, like your dad's story is amazing. He was like, yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, we'll certainly see. I don't know. There's always I've said this, as long as McCullough is coaching at Notre Dame, there's always going to be the discussion of, do any of his kids follow him at Notre Dame? He has his oldest son is, I think, is a 5th-year defensive back at Indiana. Second
He's at
son,
Miami.
Miami of Ohio.
The oldest one's at Miami. Yeah.
Okay, Miami of Ohio.
Actually, no, he might have transferred. He started. Sorry, I'll stop. I think he transferred to.
Okay,
I don't know.
I think he did start at Miami of Ohio, and then I think he transferred to Indiana, or vice versa.
Okay.
And then Dasan McCullough, freshman. No, he's not Ohio State, or he committed to Ohio State. I'm sorry. Then signed with
Committed to
Indiana.
Ohio State.
That's my bad. And then the third son is Dave McCullough, who's committed to Indiana, 4-star cornerback in the 2023 class. That could be interesting. And then the fourth son, I think, is your favorite, right, Ashton?
Yes, he is 5, I believe. 5-ish. He's certainly younger. But when I was writing the article about McCullough coming on, it was like he has 4 sons and 3 play football. I had to put a little asterisk, like the other one is in kindergarten, so he can't really. I mean, I guess he could play football, but it's not like there's a 4th son that's just not athletic. It's that child is 5. So yeah.
All right, moving along here. I will now go into my answer, which was Chancey Stuckey. I get the argument that can be made on the other side that he doesn't have a lot to prove, because if it's not a great receiver year, it's not like he had a full cupboard, like an Al Washington does, or even Delaney McCullough. Even though Kyron Williams is gone, still a pretty strong backfield. But my thought process was, when Notre Dame hired Stuckey, the vocal majority of Notre Dame fans were not happy about it. They very much wanted Jamarcus Shepard, who's Purdue's receivers coach and now is at Washington, because Notre Dame did go with Stuckey over Shepard, according to what I had been told. Holman Wiggins, the Alabama receivers coach, ended up getting a promotion because of Notre Dame's interest in him. He was an option as well, probably the number 1 guy. Stuckey doesn't have a ton of experience, and he's coming into a receiver room that has 8 guys on scholarship, one of whom is a former walk-on, and another is a super senior who is coming off an ACL injury. There's another receiver, Joe Wilkins, who's coming off a major injury. It's not a well-stocked room. Tons of inexperience on that room. And then your 2022 class just signed 1 guy in Tobias Merriweather. So, and Stuckey's got quite a big task in 2023, signing Notre Dame desperately needs a very talented receiver class. So, Tim, before you give your answer, your thoughts on, I'm assuming, actually, I don't know. I have no idea. But if McCullough or Stuckey is one of your answers, but your reaction to, the choice of those 2 guys.
Oh, they both have amazing stories. I know when you and I did the video on Stuckey, it's just, the Dabo. I'm a huge Dabo Sweeney guy. I think, he's the 2nd best football
I know,
coach.
Tim.
He is. Notre Dame fans can say what they want. The guy is a heck of a football coach, what he's done at Clemson. But, just his call alone saying, yeah, he's an unbelievable guy, vouched for him, coached him, all those things. And he's awesome. McCullough's story is just like, when he came aboard, and I was just the story, because running backs are different dudes. And I think that's a biggie. We'll talk 2022 down the road, but this 2023 recruiting class is beyond important because the running back room is very small as well. People don't talk about that as much, but it's very light. The wide receivers. I mean, you just mentioned it, Mike. You're getting a super senior, Avery Davis, who came to Notre Dame as a quarterback, 2 fifth-year seniors that have been injured for on and off for 4 years in Wilkins and Lindsey. So you got those 3 guys gone. You got a small group returning next year. Stuckey, he's got to go. I mean, you've got to sign 4 wide receivers minimum. I mean, 4. I mentioned it, to you, 10 skill guys, I feel. When you go wide receiver, DB, just taking skill guys, I think there needs to be a replenishing at those skill spots. So those 2 coaches are outstanding. And McCullough's story is unbelievable. I don't know. I mean, I know you've mentioned running back. Are they done with Irvin? But McCullough is such a dynamic guy and a story. I mean, my gosh, go get one of these freaks that and run behind O-line you and all these O-linemen. Go get one of these running backs. So we'll see what happens here.
I don't think they're done. I don't think they're done at running back. That's kind of my thought right now. All right, so I had Stuckey. And Ashton went with McCullough. I think Ashton just went with McCullough just because she loves writing about DeLon McCullough. That's really her thing.
Yeah, that's the only reason. Correct.
Tim, who's your pick?
You know what? I went with Tyler Horka, but really the opposite. I read the article and I was like, I'm a huge Al Washington fan. I think he's unbelievable. You type his name into YouTube and you watch his mic'd up at Cincinnati, Ohio State, Michigan. I think he's the best talker out of all the new assistant coaches. He's unbelievable. I want to hang out and just talk ball with this guy. When you hear him speak, his energy, his love, his passion of just football and being around dudes is so infectious. Just coming off of little couple-minute clips. That is awesome. I mean, there's a video, by the way, on YouTube, which is 15, 20 minutes of a clinic video where he's doing the recruit down in Louisiana, Osbury, who's at the Ohio State camp, and he's breaking down him at the camp and all these drills he's doing. I'm like, who doesn't want to be coached by Al Washington? Who on this staff has coached a Heisman Trophy finalist? So you got a D-line coach who's coached linebackers at Michigan, linebackers at Ohio State, running backs at Boston College, a second-round draft choice in Harold Landry, who led the country in sacks in, 2016 at BC. The guy's 3-0 against Notre Dame because he played at BC during those years when they beat Notre Dame. So I'm his biggest fan as far as all the new assists. I don't count Harry Heastan. He's a vet. He's there. He's got his statue, but with the new blood, the new guys that are in, Al Washington is a treat to listen to.
All right, Tim, what if I surprised you and I popped on a different scene here? Let's say it's this one. So it's half the screen is you. And then instead of me here, Harry Heastan popped on.
Sure.
And I surprised you and I was like, Tim, you get to talk with Harry Heastan. What would you first say to Harry? Because he's like your, I don't know, man crush is a stretch, but like he's your hero.
Well, I've coached a lot of little linemen. I have a couple of linemen playing, in the Pac-12 currently right now. I would just want to sit down, hang out, and let's just talk double team. Talk every single 6-inch step that you're taking, and let's talk double team, point of attack. Where's my eyes, my hand placement, all those. And I think Harry and I could have a few cold sodas and talk for a couple hours just talking about double teaming the 3 technique on the backside on inside zone. I think that I would definitely do that. That would be my first question.
That's a true coach speak right there, Tim. I love it. All right, our last topic before we get out of here. Ashton wrote a neat little article on our website, blueandgold.com, titled 3 Notre Dame upperclassmen poised for breakout seasons. For folks watching live with us, make sure you hit the thumbs up. If you're watching back, hit the thumbs up podcast channel. Appreciate you. Make sure you head to our site, blueandgold.com, for all the stories on Notre Dame athletics, football recruiting, hockey, baseball, men's basketball, women's basketball. I think that's 6 kind of different things. I don't know if I said hockey, but we cover a ton at Blue and Gold, so make sure you go to the site to check it out. So, again, last topic here: 3 Notre Dame upperclassmen poised for breakout seasons. Ashton went with Chris Tyree, Marist Lufau, and nose tackle Howard Cross. Lufau, a linebacker. Ashton, obviously, folks can read the article at blueandgold.com for the written version of your thoughts. But why'd you go with those 3 for your article?
Yeah, so I think, and we kind of touched on this with kind of why I wanted to write this article, I guess, was what we touched on with the wide receiver room, where I feel like Notre Dame this year either has these seasoned veteran starters or these really young guys that we're talking about. And there's this pot in the middle of guys that are upperclassmen, but maybe haven't been starters. I know there's a couple of exceptions. Cross started like twice for Heinisch and whatever. But in general, these guys have not been starters, but I think they're all very talented. And often when they get into the game, well, I guess Marist is a little bit different because of the injury, but especially with Tyree and Cross, when they get into the game, they do really well. So I think I went with Tyree because he was a top 100 recruit. I think it's Rivals had him as the top running back in the country, but the consensus had him slightly further down. I forget exactly what it was. Anyways, big recruit. I think Notre Dame it was at Alabama and Oklahoma for him. So immensely talented kid, but has been behind Kyron Williams this whole time. Also, this last year, basically, he played the first 4 or 5 games, ended up with a turf toe injury at Virginia Tech, and then was from there really tailed off. So I went through and I averaged the carries pre-Virginia Tech game, and it was 21, and then post, it was, I believe, 8.6, so call it 9. And he missed the entire USC game, and then he also only played on special teams at UNC. So really trailed off, both because of that injury, also Kyron. So I think now he can step into that role. He's poised to potentially be RB1. I know Logan Diggs is lurking behind him, but I think that he can make a big impact. And then Marist obviously broke his ankle last year, was going to be the starting will linebacker. Bertrand stepped in and did a really good job. That's a story for another time, I guess. But Marist has a different skill set than Bertrand. He's taller. He's a little faster. And he has the potential to kind of add that speed to that linebacking core they didn't have last year, in addition to Jalen Sneed. I think the two of them both very, very quick. And then with Cross, he was playing behind Kurt Heinisch, who was a 4-year starter. 3, I think it's 3. And Cross started twice, including the Wisconsin game. He ended up with a couple of sacks. He's been waiting, kind of lurking behind Heinisch, and has a chance to step in. Also, you could kind of make the same argument for Jacob Lazy, but I went with Cross. So yeah, that's kind of why I picked those guys and why I was interested in even writing the article in the first place.
All right, Tim, we'll go to you. What was your group of 3?
I went with 3 true juniors, and I went with some guys that have not really, blossomed yet or taken it to the next level. So that's the way I kind of looked at this article and this question. So, and then it's guys that are they needed now? But it's one of those now with the transfer portal. If you're not going to play as a junior, are you leaving at Christmas? So I went with, now that Takis is gone, who's going to be the number 2 tight end behind Michael Mayer? I went with Kevin Bauman. So I went with a guy who's actually from the same high school as Coach Golden, obviously Quentin Nelson. Talented. I went back and watched a bunch of senior highlight film of these kids there on the huddle, and Bauman just exploded on the film. Going back and rewatching him now after a couple of years, so hopefully that translates into his junior year, and he's the true number 2, ready to take the sole possession in 2023 and keep that tight end draft choice, first, second rounders going. He is you go back, people need to go back and watch his senior film. It is pretty dynamic there. And second, I went with Mr. Tosh Baker. And I went with Baker for my, philosophy on this question of, are you playing or are you leaving at Christmas? And when I say Christmas, I mean, obviously the end of the season, everyone's starting to transfer. So, and I went with Tosh Baker for the reason is he's a true offensive tackle. He is tall, explosive. Go back, watch his high school film again. Athletic as could be. Does the new transition with Harry Heastan allow him to develop? I also went with a little of the Mike Goolsby philosophy of someone that sat for 2 years. Junior year, Tyrone Willingham comes in, and Mike obviously blast off, has a great career there at Notre Dame. So I kind of went with that. And my reasoning is your favorite guy, Mr. Singer, is Joe Alt. I'd love to get the feedback on this because Joe Alt, I've been going back watching a lot of film. Notre Dame played probably the worst defenses in the country the second half of the year. So was Joe Alt good because he played absolutely horrible defenses, or is Joe Alt that good? Joe Alt didn't play much in the early year. Baker had to see those freaks early in the season because they played bigger time defenses. So just throwing it out there. I'm curious because every new coaches come aboard and they grab those guys. And Tosh Baker's a super talented kid. And because everyone's just assuming Alt's there for 3 years. And then I went with a little hidden gem is the big defensive tackle out of Colorado, Aiden
Aina.
Yeah. I went and once again, I was watching junior film, the guys that are going to be juniors, and his film, he is dominant. So, but sometime at the D line, you redshirt, he played 1 game as a true frost. This year he played in 3 games. Towards the end of the season, he got some playing time. Big, strong, athletic guy. I went off of Ashton's talking about Howard Cross. Howard Cross is 6'1", 270 pounds if he weighs that much. Can you take the pounding? Notre Dame, if Notre Dame's going to take the next level, they need some big dudes inside. And they have him with Rubio and obviously Aiden. So these juniors, are they going to take the next step? New coaching staff, new position coaches, all 3 of these. And that was my philosophy in picking just 3 little hidden gems and seeing what happens there.
Naturally, I didn't pick my 3 until Ashton was giving her explanation for her choices. So, but I went with different guys than everyone else did. So, Joe Alt doesn't apply for this because he's a sophomore, but I just wanted to pop him up on the screen just because he's awesome.
Mike's going to pick 3 starters as his surprises.
No, it's poised for breakouts. So the first guy, all right, I low key kind of did pick 3 sort of starters, but Clarence Lewis is poised for like a rebound. Maybe how about that? People are down on Clarence Lewis. Remember, when he was a true freshman, he was not an early enrollee. He was a mid-level 3-star. He wasn't supposed to be anything great. People thought he was a better receiver than he was a corner. He didn't really even play that much corner. I remember trying to track down his high school stats. I don't even think he played a ton of corner. And then he comes in and beats out Tariq Bracy, who had a really good season in 2019. So I think he's poised for, again, maybe not. What was the actual topic again? It was
upperclassmen poised for breakout season.
So
it was designed to recognize upperclassmen. Yes,
with a breakout, his rebound is going to be the breakout. That's my, because not a great season last year, especially what the taste that was left in our mouth for that Oklahoma State game. Moving on, Ramon Henderson. He was like a spot starter last year. He was fantastic at the end of the season. This was a guy that 2020 recruiting class, that was my first class I covered at Notre Dame, so it always holds a special place in my heart. The defensive back class was Landon, the number 1 guy in the class this time was Landon Bartleson, who never made it to campus because of gun possession. It was not good. Burglary with a gun or something like that. It was not good. Ramon Henderson, 3-star guy, was not highly thought of by most Notre Dame fans, and just a guy. Clarence Lewis, and then who was the other? Caleb Offord, who's now at Buffalo. And here you go, Clarence Lewis and Ramon Henderson, 2 of my choices here. So I think Ramon is, he was a track star in high school, a strider. He's fast, and I think he's playing some really good ball and moving forward. And then my last pick was actually, someone commented here just a few minutes ago. Riley Mills is ready. I'm not seeing it here, but someone commented. Right?
Yeah, it was in there. It was in the chat.
And that's a great choice. I mean, we talked about Al Washington and that really good defensive line room he's taken over. We just talked about 3 interior defensive linemen, right? Riley Mills, Keanu Aina, and Cross. You even
Cross.
mentioned
Yeah.
Gabe Rubio. It's a really good group. So
Well,
that's my
real quick, yeah,
Go
real
ahead,
quick
Tim.
off of that, Mike, just real quick is these guys need to be dudes. These guys we all mentioned come 2023 because I mean, you could lose. I mean, Cross could leave if he wants. Lacey could leave if he wants. The twins are gone. Foskey's gone. So there's going to be some guys needed here come 2023 up front, and Coach Washington go get them.
All right. I think we're at 55 minutes recording live. We hit all of our topics. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, you know what? We've each mentioned a couple players and the improvement down the road. You mentioned Ramon Henderson, Logan Diggs. Obviously, I mentioned your guy Joe Alt. And is that maybe a topic for down the road as we start talking is what happened the second half of the season in 2021? What can Notre Dame take from that into 2022? Is it false? I don't know if it is, but it sure did seem like a lot of that come the Fiesta Bowl.
Well, Tim, I almost reached across the screen and grabbed your neck when you had any semblance of a Joe Alt slander talking about him.
No slander. Just watching film. Hey, he was good as could be. Don't get me wrong. Get me wrong.
I'm coming for you, Tim. All right, Ashton, that was your YouTube Blue and Gold and our podcast. This was your debut. I hope, folks, you liked her because you're going to see a lot more of her and hear a lot more of her. So, Ashton, what'd you think of your first time on our show?
It was quite fun. This has been lovely. I like this group too. I think to your point, we all bring different things. Mike's a great host. Tim knows the game really well, and I'm just really sarcastic and hanging out in the background. So we'll all play to our strengths here. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, appreciate you guys watching, listening. Make sure you go to the site blueandgold.com for your first year of premium access. Hit that thumbs up if you're on YouTube. Appreciate you guys, and we will catch you next time.
Here you go.
I should hit the finish button. Yeah.